Most people wait for a breaking point before they decide to rebuild their lives. They wait for pain to become unbearable, for failure to become public, for fear to finally outweigh comfort. But what if you didn't have to hit rock bottom to rise? What if your turning point could begin right now, not because life knocked you down, but because you chose to stand up? Right now, there are two versions of you. The one shaped by excuses, comfort, and hesitation, and the one shaped by discipline, courage, and action. The only difference between them is not talent, intelligence, or luck. It's decision. You don't drift into a powerful life. You don't accidentally become disciplined. You don't stumble into confidence. Every strong life is built on uncomfortable choices made consistently and quietly long before anyone sees the results. This is not about changing your life in a day. This is about changing the direction of your life in a moment. Because the truth is simple. The life you want is on the other side of the habits you're avoiding, the fears you're protecting, and the effort you've been postponing. And today, you decide which side you're going to live on. Personal responsibility is the foundation of transformation because it places the power of change directly in your hands instead of outside of your control. When a person accepts responsibility for their life, they stop blaming circumstances, other people, bad luck, or the past for their current situation. This shift is not about guilt or shame. It is about ownership. The moment you say, "My life is the way it is because of my choices," you unlock the ability to change it. Without this step, real growth is impossible because you end up waiting for life to improve itself instead of becoming the person who improves their own life. Most people struggle not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they mentally give away their power. When you blame the economy, your family, your education, or your environment, you are handing control to forces you cannot command. Personal responsibility pulls that control back. It creates a mindset where you understand that while you may not control everything that happens, you always control how you respond. This awareness is where transformation begins. The strongest individuals are not the ones with the easiest lives, but the ones who decided not to be ruled by their difficulties. Taking responsibility also builds discipline, because once you admit that your results come from your actions, you can no longer hide from self-improvement. If your health is poor, you look at your habits. If your finances are unstable, you examine your decisions. If your relationships are suffering, you reflect on your communication and behavior. This level of honesty is uncomfortable, but it is powerful. It turns problems into projects and weaknesses into areas of development. Instead of feeling helpless, you feel motivated because you see a path forward that depends on your effort rather than external rescue. Personal responsibility is also deeply connected to self-respect. When you take ownership of your life, you stop living as a reaction to everything around you and start living with intention. You become proactive instead of reactive. This creates confidence, not arrogant confidence, but quiet, grounded confidence that comes from knowing you are not drifting through life. You are steering it. You begin to trust yourself more because you keep promises to yourself. You stop looking for motivation and start leaning on commitment. Another powerful aspect of personal responsibility is that it brings clarity. Blaming other people makes life confusing and chaotic because your emotional state depends on what others do. But when you accept responsibility, you gain a clear cause, an effect understanding of your life. You see patterns. You notice that consistent effort produces results, and careless habits produce setbacks. This clarity makes progress predictable. You are no longer surprised by outcomes because you understand the role you played in creating them. It also changes how you view failure. Instead of seeing failure as proof that you are incapable, you begin to see it as information. You ask better questions. What did I do wrong? What can I improve? What should I try differently next time? This mindset creates resilience because every setback becomes a lesson rather than a stopping point. People who avoid responsibility fear failure. People who embrace responsibility use failure as fuel. Personal responsibility is not about controlling everything. It is about controlling what is yours to control. You cannot control the weather, the market, or the decisions of others, but you can control your effort, your attitude, your consistency, and your integrity. When you focus on these areas, your life starts to change from the inside out. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and start feeling like life is responding to you. True transformation never begins with changing the world. It begins with changing the self. Personal responsibility is the doorway through which all growth enters, because it quietly shifts your identity from victim to builder, from passenger to driver, from hopeful to capable, and from dreaming to doing. Self-discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become because it turns intention into reality and desire into structure. Everyone has dreams, goals, and ambitions, but without discipline, those dreams remain ideas floating in the mind rather than outcomes in the real world. Discipline is not about perfection or extreme control. It is about consistency. It is the quiet, repeated decision to do what matters even when it feels uncomfortable, boring, or difficult. That consistent effort slowly closes the gap between your current self and your future self. Most people rely on motivation, but motivation is unpredictable. It rises and falls based on mood, environment, and energy. Discipline, on the other hand, does not depend on feelings. It depends on standards. When you practice self-discipline, you decide in advance how you will behave instead of waiting to feel like taking action. You wake up when you said you would. You work when it would be easier to scroll. You push forward even when no one is watching. This creates momentum, and momentum is one of the strongest forces in personal growth. Self-discipline also shapes your identity. You do not become disciplined by reading about it. You become disciplined by acting disciplined. Every time you follow through on a hard task, you send yourself a message that you are reliable, strong, and capable. Over time, these messages build a new self-image. You begin to see yourself as a person who keeps promises, who finishes what they start, and who can be trusted with bigger responsibilities. This identity shift is essential because your behavior always follows your self-image. Another important aspect of self-discipline is that it trains your mind to tolerate discomfort. Growth is almost always uncomfortable because it requires change. Waking up earlier, studying longer, eating healthier, training harder, and managing time better all come with resistance. Discipline teaches you not to run from that resistance, but to face it calmly. You learn that discomfort is temporary and that the satisfaction of progress lasts much longer than the comfort of avoidance. As your tolerance for discomfort increases, your capacity for success expands. Self-discipline also protects your future by controlling your present. Every day you are making small decisions that either invest in your future or steal from it. Skipping workouts, procrastinating work, wasting time, and avoiding responsibility feel harmless in the moment, but they quietly shape your long-term direction. Discipline interrupts this pattern. It forces you to choose long-term benefits over short-term pleasure. It transforms instant gratification into delayed gratification, which is one of the most powerful traits of high achievers. Another powerful element of self-discipline is structure. A disciplined life is not chaotic. It is organized around priorities. Your time has direction. Your energy has purpose. You begin to design your days instead of drifting through them. This structure creates peace of mind because you are no longer overwhelmed by everything at once. You focus on what matters and let go of what does not. You stop reacting to life and start leading it. Discipline also builds inner strength that cannot be taken away by external changes. Money can come and go, relationships can change, circumstances can shift, but the ability to control your actions, focus your mind, and direct your effort stays with you for life. Once you develop discipline, you carry a tool that allows you to rebuild yourself in any situation. It becomes a personal standard that guides your behavior even when no one is there to reward you or correct you. Over time, self-discipline becomes less of a struggle and more of a lifestyle. What once felt hard becomes natural. What once required effort becomes habit. The bridge between your present and your potential is built not with dramatic bursts of effort, but with small, disciplined actions repeated every day, steadily moving you closer to the person you are capable of becoming. Failures are feedback, not defeat, because they reveal information that success often hides. When something goes wrong, your natural instinct may be to feel embarrassed, discouraged, or ashamed, but beneath those emotions lies valuable data about what works and what does not. Failure is not a verdict on your worth, it is a report on your approach. The moment you begin to see mistakes as lessons instead of labels, your relationship with effort changes. You stop fearing failure and start using it as a guide. Most people view failure as a stopping point, a sign that they should quit or choose an easier path. In reality, failure is usually a direction change signal rather than a full stop. When a strategy does not succeed, it does not mean the goal is wrong. It means the method needs adjustment. This mindset shift is powerful because it keeps you in motion. Instead of collapsing emotionally, you become curious. You begin to ask questions about what went wrong, what can be improved, and what should be done differently next time. Curiosity replaces fear and growth becomes natural. Failure also builds resilience in a way that success never can. Success feels good, but it rarely stretches your character. Failure forces you to confront discomfort, disappointment, and self-doubt. When you push through those feelings, instead of running from them, you develop emotional strength. You learn that you can survive rejection, loss, and setbacks. You discover that pain is not permanent and that confidence does not come from always winning, but from knowing you can stand back up after losing. Another powerful aspect of failure as feedback is that it exposes your blind spots. When everything is going well, it is easy to ignore weaknesses in your process, habits, or thinking. Failure brings those weaknesses to the surface. It highlights gaps in preparation, flaws in planning, and limitations in skill. This is not meant to tear you down, but to give you a clear map of where to focus your growth. Without failure, improvement would be random. With failure, improvement becomes targeted and purposeful. Failure also teaches humility and patience. When you stumble, you are reminded that growth is a process, not an instant reward. You learn that mastery takes time and that progress often moves slower than your expectations. This patience is critical because impatience is one of the main reasons people quit. They expect overnight success and feel defeated when it does not happen. Failure quietly trains you to respect the journey and trust the process, even when results are not immediately visible. Another hidden value of failure is that it clarifies your commitment. When things become difficult, you are forced to ask yourself how badly you really want your goal. Easy paths do not require conviction, but hard paths do. Each failure becomes a test of your persistence. If you choose to try again, you strengthen your identity as someone who does not run at the first sign of struggle. Over time, this identity becomes stronger than your fear, and you begin to move forward with quiet determination instead of fragile confidence. Failures also help you develop better decision-making skills. Every setback contains signals about timing, preparation, and judgment. You begin to notice patterns in your mistakes. You start recognizing situations that require more planning, more patience, or more effort. This awareness slowly sharpens your instincts. You become wiser, more strategic, and more calm under pressure. Success built without failure is often shallow, while success built on failure is stable and lasting. Seeing failure as feedback does not mean you enjoy failing. It means you refuse to let failure define you. You accept it, analyze it, learn from it, and adapt. This process creates a growth-oriented mindset where setbacks are not roadblocks but stepping stones. Over time, the pain of failure is replaced by the power of learning, and the fear of trying is replaced by the courage to grow, push forward, and keep improving. Daily habits quietly shape your future because they turn small actions into long-term results without demanding your attention or recognition. What you do repeatedly becomes who you are, not through dramatic moments but through ordinary routines that seem insignificant in the moment. A single healthy choice or productive action may not feel powerful, but when repeated every day, it compounds into strength, skill, discipline, and success. The future is not built in sudden bursts of effort, but in consistent patterns that slowly solidify into your identity. Most people overestimate what can be done in a week and underestimate what can be done in a year. This happens because habits work beneath the surface. Like roots growing underground, you rarely see progress at first, but the foundation is being laid. Whether it is reading a few pages, waking up earlier, practicing a skill, exercising lightly, or planning your day, these actions seem small. Yet over time, they reshape your mind and body. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits, because habits operate automatically, even when motivation fades. Daily habits shape not only your results, but your self-image. When you show up for yourself in small ways every day, you begin to think of yourself as disciplined, reliable, and capable. When you skip commitments to yourself, you quietly weaken your confidence. This is not about being perfect, it is about being consistent enough to build trust with yourself. Self-trust does not come from grand promises, but from small promises kept repeatedly. Once that trust is built, your confidence becomes steady instead of fragile. Habits also conserve mental energy. The brain loves patterns because they reduce the need for constant decision-making. When you build positive habits, you remove friction from good behavior. You no longer debate whether to wake up early, exercise, or work on your goals. It simply becomes your normal. In contrast, bad habits also work automatically, which is why they are dangerous. They pull you toward comfort, distraction, and delay without requiring conscious effort. The direction of your life is determined by which habits you allow to become automatic. Another powerful aspect of daily habits is their compounding effect. A 1% improvement repeated daily becomes massive over time. Small positive actions accumulate into extraordinary results, just as small negative actions accumulate into serious problems. Skipping a workout once may not matter, but skipping it regularly changes your health. Wasting time occasionally may not hurt, but wasting it daily changes your future. Habits are like interest. They either work for you or against you silently in the background. Daily habits also shape your emotional stability. A consistent routine creates a sense of control and structure. When your day has rhythm, your mind feels calmer. You are less overwhelmed, less anxious, and less reactive. You begin to feel grounded because you have anchors in your day that keep you steady. Without habits, life feels chaotic, unpredictable, and stressful. Stability is not about having perfect circumstances. It is about having reliable systems that support you regardless of circumstances. Habits influence your environment as well. Your daily actions affect the people you interact with, the standards you tolerate, and the opportunities you attract. When you maintain good habits, you naturally raise your standards. You begin to associate with people who share discipline and growth. You create environments that support your progress instead of sabotaging it. This creates a feedback loop where good habits attract better conditions, and better conditions make it easier to maintain good habits. What makes habits so powerful is that they do not rely on intense effort forever. In the beginning, change is hard because you are fighting old patterns. But once a habit is formed, it feels natural. You no longer rely on willpower because behavior is now automatic. This is why your future is being shaped even when you are not thinking about it. The quiet actions you repeat each day are working in the background, slowly creating the life you will eventually experience. Growth happens when comfort is challenged, because comfort is designed to maintain what is familiar, not to expand what is possible. When you stay in comfortable routines, comfortable thoughts, and comfortable environments, you are essentially telling your mind and body that you do not need to evolve. Comfort feels safe, predictable, and easy, but it quietly limits your potential. Real progress begins the moment you feel slight resistance, fear, or uncertainty, because those feelings are signals that you are stepping into new territory. Whenever you challenge your comfort, you force your mind and body to adapt. This is true in every area of life. Muscles grow only when they are stressed beyond their current capacity. Skills improve only when you practice beyond what feels easy. Confidence grows when you do things that scare you. If something feels effortless all the time, it usually means you are not stretching far enough to create real development. Comfort creates stagnation, while challenge creates evolution. Challenging comfort also changes your relationship with fear. Fear is not always a warning, it is often a doorway. When you avoid discomfort, fear gains control over your decisions. Your world slowly becomes smaller because you choose safety over possibility. But when you step toward discomfort intentionally, fear loses its power. You begin to see fear as a signal of opportunity rather than danger. This shift makes you more courageous, not because you stop feeling fear, but because you stop letting fear control your behavior. Another important effect of challenging comfort is that it strengthens your mental toughness. Life is unpredictable and often difficult. If you live only in comfort, even small problems can feel overwhelming. But when you regularly place yourself in challenging situations, you train your mind to stay steady under pressure. You become more patient with stress, more calm in uncertainty, and more resilient in the face of setbacks. This resilience is not built through ease, it is built through effort. Stepping out of your comfort zone also helps you discover parts of yourself that would otherwise remain hidden. You don't fully know your strength, courage, or potential until you are tested. Easy situations do not reveal character, difficulty does. When you attempt something hard, you learn what you are capable of handling. You uncover abilities you did not know you had. This creates a deep sense of self-trust that cannot be borrowed from books or motivation speeches. It is earned through experience. Challenging comfort also improves your self-discipline. Comfort thrives on instant gratification, while growth requires delayed gratification. Choosing a workout over rest, reading over scrolling, and working on goals over entertainment requires you to resist the pull of comfort. Each time you do, you strengthen your ability to control your impulses. This makes you more focused, more intentional, and more in control of your life. Over time, this discipline becomes a skill you can use in every area of life. Another powerful outcome of leaving comfort is perspective. When you stay in the same routines, same thinking patterns, and same social circles, your view of the world becomes narrow. Discomfort expands your perspective. It exposes you to new ideas, new environments, and new challenges. You begin to see what is possible instead of what is familiar. This expanded perspective changes the way you set goals and the standards you hold for yourself. Comfort is not the enemy, stagnation is. Rest is necessary, but living permanently in ease weakens your capacity. The goal is not to live in pain or constant struggle, but to regularly challenge yourself enough to grow. This balance is what builds strong character, real confidence, and lasting success. When you intentionally place yourself in situations that stretch your limits, you evolve naturally, steadily transforming into a stronger, more capable version of yourself. Your future is built by choices, not chances, because life does not randomly hand outcomes to people who hope for them. Every situation you experience is influenced by decisions you make daily, whether consciously or unconsciously. Many people believe that luck determines success, happiness, or stability, but in reality, consistent choices shape direction far more than unpredictable events. Opportunities may appear by chance, but preparation, discipline, and decision-making determine whether those opportunities can be used. When you understand that your future is choice-driven, you stop waiting and start building. Every choice, no matter how small, carries momentum. Choosing to wake up early instead of sleeping in, choosing to work on a skill instead of wasting time, choosing to save money instead of spending impulsively, and choosing to speak kindly instead of reacting emotionally may feel insignificant in the moment. Over time, these small choices accumulate. They form habits, and habits create systems that guide your life automatically. A single decision may not change your life, but repeated decisions create a pattern, and that pattern becomes your path. Your environment is also shaped by your choices. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the conversations you entertain, and the standards you accept all influence your direction. These are not random events, they are outcomes of your decisions. Even the act of not choosing is a choice. When you stay silent, delay action, or avoid responsibility, you are still deciding the direction of your life. Neutrality is an illusion because inaction slowly pulls you backward while action pushes you forward. One of the most important realities of choice is that it builds identity. You do not become strong by wishing to be strong. You become strong by choosing difficult actions consistently. You do not become confident by hoping. You become confident by choosing courage repeatedly. With each choice, you are casting a vote for the type of person you are becoming. You are either reinforcing weakness or strengthening discipline. Identity is not something you discover. It is something you build through behavior. Many people misunderstand chance. Chance can affect timing, resources, or starting points, but it cannot replace effort. You may be born into different circumstances than others, but what you build from that starting point depends on what you decide to do with what you have. Two people can experience the same setback, and one will grow stronger while the other will give up. The difference is not luck, it is choice. Responsibility for the future does not come from having perfect circumstances, but from making the best possible decisions within imperfect ones. Choices also shape mindset. When you repeatedly choose accountability, learning, patience, and discipline, your thinking becomes sharper and more resilient. When you choose avoidance, excuses, and comfort, your thinking becomes weaker and more scattered. Over time, your mind becomes trained in the direction of your choices. You begin to think like a problem solver or like a victim depending on the decisions you make daily. This mental conditioning is quiet but powerful, and it directs your long-term outcomes. Another powerful aspect of choice is that it gives you control even in uncertain situations. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can control how you respond. That response is a choice. You can choose to learn from setbacks or be defeated by them. You can choose to adapt or to complain. These decisions determine emotional strength and long-term growth. Life will always contain chaos, but your choices determine whether that chaos makes you stronger or weaker. The future is not a mysterious destination waiting for you. It is a structure you are building every day with your decisions, priorities, attitudes, and actions. You are laying bricks with each choice you make, whether you realize it or not. The quality of your future depends on the quality of your daily decisions, and that truth is what gives you power, accountability, and the ability to shape your life intentionally rather than leaving it to chance. Rebuilding yourself is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. It's about taking responsibility, practicing discipline, learning from failure, mastering your habits, stepping beyond comfort, and making powerful choices every single day. Your past does not have to define you. Your circumstances do not control you. The power to change is already in your hands. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect timing. You just need the courage to start. From this moment forward, let your standards rise. Let your commitment grow. Let your actions speak louder than your fears. Rebuild yourself, not because life is easy, but because you are capable. I wish you strength in your struggles, courage in your challenges, and discipline in your journey. May you rise stronger, think bigger, and move forward with confidence. Good luck on your journey of rebuilding yourself, and thank you for giving me your time and attention.